So hello from a very cold and misty morning in Norton. Now Norton is in the northeast of England and it's situated between Billingham, which is over there, and Stockton, which is over there somewhere. Now Norton used to be an Anglo-Saxon farm or an estate, and over time the population grew and it became a farming village, and as it grew it needed a place of worship. So there's a church just over there called St Mary's, and that was built in the 11th century. We will go and have a look at that a little bit later on. But in Norton as of today, you can see a lot of different architecture there, a lot of Gregorian houses and cottages dotted around the place, and nice little old buildings such as this over here, which we'll go and have a look at in a second. And there's also a 16th century place over there called the Friends Meeting House, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. And a little bit later on in the video as well, I'm going to tell you a dark tale about Norton as well, which is quite interesting but also scary, so stay tuned for that. So first we'll go and have a look at this old building over here. It's got some markings on the front of it, so we'll go and have a quick look at this, and then we'll head over the road to the duck ponds, and I'll show you the nice little fountain area over there, and I'll tell you a bit about that then. So let's have a look at this. So this is the National School, built in 1833 and restored in 1893. As you can see the plaques up there. It's a nice little old village, like sort of building, isn't it, with a nice door, and obviously the architecture looks really nice. But as you look around, there's the Friends Meeting House over there, but all the properties just look really, really nice. Obviously it's a bit of a mix from Gregorian to sort of modern architecture around here. So let's just head over the road and I'll go over to the fountain and show you the duck ponds over here. So we'll just cross over this road carefully, and that's where we'll be in a moment. So see you in a second. So as you can see, I'm here at Norton Duck Ponds. Plenty of ducks and seagulls and pigeons all over the place. But yeah, prior to this being the duck pond itself, probably about 1,000 years ago, it was this was just a grazing area for the animals that were at the farms. But also this was just a watering hole for the animals themselves before eventually becoming what it is today, a fountain and a pond with all of these amazing little creatures. But it's got loads of benches dotted around, so you can have a nice little sit, have a sandwich, maybe go to Coupland's and get a toffee Danish. But yeah, it's a nice relaxing place. It's great for people, photographers and artists alike. I've seen quite a lot of portraits and pictures done of this particular area, both in the daytime and night time. It's a lovely place to visit, don't you think? But as I mentioned, over on the actual green area itself, there is the church just up here called St Mary's, and as I say, that was built in the 11th century. So we'll go and have a quick look at that, and I'll show you around, and there's a person of importance that's actually buried there, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So let's head over there now. So as I make my way under this little archway that you can see here, there are some little carvings made by Robert Thompson, sometimes known as Mousy Thompson or Mouseman Thompson. And if you can see up here, there's a little mouse carved into the wood, but apparently there is 10 mice actually carved in this sort of area. I haven't actually found all of them yet. I've seen that one, but if you ever come here, there's a challenge for you. See if you can find all 10 of them. Let's head into the church now. So as we go into the church, St Mary's Church, there's a little war memorial here for the First World War, and the actual church itself, the very start of it, as you can see, there's different types of stone here, but the initial build of it was in 1020 AD, and then all of the extra bits you can kind of see that have been added onto it they were built from 1190 onwards. But also around here is the latest addition or the extension to this church, and that was actually built in 2005, just 20 years ago. And you can see, obviously when we walk around here, you can actually see it, because it's obviously, the sandstone's very brand new, it's not worn like these are here. It's just round this way here. There you go. So as you can see, this is the old style from 1190s onwards, and this is the brand new one. So you can see the difference between the two stones. But this was built, this extension was built in 2005. Go a bit round a bit further so you can have a look around the other side and see the difference. So you can see everywhere there are sort of bits where it's been repaired. Obviously where the clock is, that's been repaired. But that central bit would have been the 1020 AD version, and then all these little bits that have been added on were from 1190 onwards. So I did tell you that there's someone famous, an inventor, that is actually buried here, and I'll show you his grave right now. Here it is. So here we have the gravestone of John Walker. Now, he was born in 1781 in Stockton-on-Tees, and he was a surgeon's assistant before getting into chemistry. And while he was a chemist, he actually opened a chemist at 59 High Street in Stockton. Now, what's his significance to Stockton? Well, he's actually the original inventor of the friction light or friction matches. Sadly, he passed away in 1859 here in Stockton, but here's his grave. So John Walker is a part of Stockton's history, just like the Stockton and Darlington Railway, which, funnily enough, will be 200 years come 27th of September this year. So hopefully there'll be big celebrations in regards to that, both in Darlington and here in Stockton, where it all started. Now, I'm going to give you a better view of this church, not just round here, but up there. So check this out. So I'm just walking into Norton High Street now. Now the majority of the shops are on the right hand side, as I am now, with more properties and housing over on the left hand side, which I'll show you now. So there's all the different houses over there, different architecture, and as you can see, you've got all different shops, cafes. Down the end you've got like pubs and eateries, as well as charity shops. But yeah, there's a lot of different sort of architecture, from modern to Gregorian, as I mentioned at the start of the video. But it's a nice little village just to come and visit. It's got a lot to choose from if you just wanted to come and have a little bit of a walk around. It's got some nice little walks around here, and it's got some nice cafes. You can go in and have a nice cup of coffee or whatever you prefer. There's plenty of eateries around. There's restaurants, takeaways and the likes. So let's have a little bit further. I've got something to show you just down here as well. So if you're ever in Norton and you want to know a bit more of the history rather than going online, there's a library just here, and the librarians do know about the history, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction to know about the Anglo-Saxon history and a bit more about Norton in itself. There's also Norton Fisheries over there, which do a nice fish and chips. If you're ever in the area, get yourself over there, get yourself some fish and chips. This building over here that you can see was in a bit of disrepair back in its day, and someone bought it and restored it back more or less to what it looked like, brought it back to its old features, took out all of the new stuff that was put in, all the modern stuff, and actually brought it back to what it used to look like. There's been a few complaints. People aren't happy with the overall look of the windows maybe, but at the end of the day, it's been restored. It looks a lot better than it did, and I think it looks great. Well, yeah, there's some nice buildings over here. There's Dr. McGonagall's over there, and I'll put a little thing of who he is down below. But just around this corner is what I want to show you. A nice little area just here. So these are the Fox Arm houses in Norton. These were founded and endowed by a local brewer called John Henry Ford in 1897. Now these Fox built these houses just off the southern end of Norton High Street, where I am now, opposite his brewery on Smirk's Yard, basically for the benefit of older people of Norton. Now these cottages styles were offered accommodation to the poor, the sick and the elderly of the parish, and were paid for and supported by charitable donations. And as you saw when I came past there, you could see there was a little tablet inscribed, the Fox Arms Houses 1897, built and endowed by John Henry Fox of Norton. These are Grade 2 listed buildings and are still almshouses today. They are administered by the Hospital of God since 2008. So as you can see here, this is the actual back of the almshouses, the little side alley. You can see all these little doors, and they've got little outbuildings in them. You can't really see them there. You can maybe see in the distance, you'll see like a green door, little outbuildings. But for these buildings, they're kept really nice, they're kept clean, and obviously the residents take care of themselves and they present them well. All the spring and summer, if you walk past here, all of the fronts of the houses are in bloom. You see lots of colour in the flowers that the plant. But it's a very lovely place. Now I'm going to head to Coupland's and get my lunch, and then I'm going to take you to another place called a Friends Meeting House, which is over near the Green. So I'll see you in a minute. So that was a little glimpse at the church, and obviously then going into the actual high street and showing you a few little things there, like the Fox Arm houses, which is a really nice little place. Now I'm just outside the Friends Meeting House, which is just here. And what I'll do is I'll head over there and I'll give you a little bit of information on that as well. So let's go and have a look at it. Now this is called the Friends Meeting House, as you can see on the outside there, and it basically opened in 1672, and it was actually built in 1671 from an existing building, and it was closed in the mid 18th century, but luckily it was revived in 1798. Now between then and 1821 it was extended, but then discontinued between 1836 and 1895. It has served as a Methodist chapel for some time. From 1902 it was restored and extended again and then used as a Quaker worship, but more recently it's been used as a community area and a community centre. Round the back, obviously you can't see here because it's round the other side, but there's another building there so you won't be able to see it fully. But round the back there is actually a burial ground behind there for this actual sort of chapel. And yeah, so here it is, and it's a Grade 2 listed building. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head down to Mill Lane, and I think I told you at the start of this video that I was going to tell you a bit of a dark story about Norton. So we'll walk down there and I'll let you know about that on the way. Let's go. So while I'm walking down here to show you this next little bit and tell you this little dark tale, I forgot to mention while I was at the church, I was actually talking to a couple of gentlemen there regarding the drone that I was using. I was doing some drone footage and taking some pictures there. And while I was talking to them, I totally forgot to mention that when they were doing some restoration on the actual church floor, they found a tunnel. Now this tunnel led from the church all the way under where I was stood a moment ago on the Norton Green, all the way to the Albany housing estate, which is quite a distance away. What was that tunnel used for? Well, it was actually used for the Saxons and the priests. If they were ever in danger, it was a way of escaping the church. And most recently they've done a bit more renovation work, and at the entrance of that particular tunnel they found a lot of remains and artifacts related to the Saxon times, which is interesting. So I'm just going to walk down here and show you this little area and tell a tale. But as I'm walking past here, this is actually a school. So obviously I've made sure that there was no kids out there. I don't film families and kids and stuff. But around here, there's a little area that the kids have got, a little sort of animal sanctuary little place with chickens and donkeys and all sorts of things. So I can see they're there. Let's have a look. Come and check these out. So here they are. Very inquisitive little chickens. They've got goats. I don't know why I said donkeys. I meant goats. Different goats. And obviously you've got these little chickens. Hello, chickens. So there they are. Say hello. You're on YouTube. Here's another thing. I'm going to move my hand out the way so it doesn't eat me. So yeah, they've got like chickens, so they've got their own eggs for the school. They've got goats of varying descriptions. Hello. And then these two little ones I've never actually seen before. I've saw the white one before and all of these chickens, but never these smaller goats. See if I can get in without them hello, without them attacking me. I'll get up higher so they can't get to me. So there they are. There's the other one down there. How cool was that? Yeah, I remember walking past my wife before when we'd been down here for a walk and just seeing them roaming around. I thought, how cool is that? Little chickens roaming around, and I think it's cool for the school kids. I'm guessing that's what they use the animals for the eggs, maybe the goat's milk to make goat's milk and cheese. Anyway, this is where I am now, this little field area here. And I'll tell you a little tale when I get inside. So I'm not sure about the exact location on this. I've just had a walk around this field and all the trees that are over in that distance and over the other side are quite small and thin. This particular story needs a big thick tree, and there's plenty dotted around down there. There's quite a few there, and there's a few over this way, so it could have happened along this stretch possibly. If you know any different, let us know in the comments. Anyway, the story goes, in 1982, a group of girls were playing on a rope swing, or as a tarzi if you're from the northeast, and they were swinging off that branch of a tree. And as they were doing so, the feet were kicking the ground below them and slowly digging below. And as they were doing so, revealed a bone. Now that bone was a human bone. So they phoned the police, and the police got involved and investigated it and passed it on to archaeologists. Now an archaeologist came over and did a little bit of a dig and discovered the body of a woman between 25 and 35-year-old. Now from that point on, the archaeological people came back to do another dig a little bit further this time, and what they found was shocking. As the archaeologists dug, what they found was 120 bodies buried under that field. And as they moved the earth to discover them, they noticed that they were buried north to south, which indicated Anglo-Saxon rather than Christian, which are buried east to west. Now, with these bodies, they weren't just middle-aged or elderly, they ranged from the infants all the way to the elderly, from rich to more significant people. Now, the poor people had beads, maybe an iron knife, maybe even like a buckle, whereas the rich or the more powerful or significant people, they had, I'm just reading my notes, they had spears, belt buckles, brooches. The women had jewellery, bracelets, pendants, beads and keys. Now the keys, they signified the head of the household. Now some of them were cremated because of the charred remains, but it was only a small percentage, whereas the rest of them were just buried. But some of them were thrown in, head down, in a strange fashion, bent up, and it's possible that they were killed for either punishment or a crime. Now when it comes to the crimes of the Anglo-Saxons, that could be anything from theft, murder, or even witchcraft. Now the site that I've just been at, when it was unearthed, it's dated back to 540 to 610 AD. Now if it wasn't for those young girls playing on a rope swing in 1982, kicking the feet and kicking the earth all over, they wouldn't have discovered a woman's bone, and they wouldn't have discovered a burial site for 120 Anglo-Saxon people. How interesting is that? Now what I'll do is I'll put a link in the description to give you a bit more detail on that and the places I visited today if you're interested. But now I'm going to get myself back home, get my feet up and go and have a cup of tea. So if you've enjoyed this video, give us a like, give us a comment, let us know if I've got anything wrong, any additional information that I could have looked at or mentioned in the video. And if you enjoy this sort of content, do us a favour and subscribe. It's free of charge and it helps me out massively. So, as always, take care of yourself and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.